This is recording 852. This is Listen Next 852 in my podcast, Speaking to the CIA. You can find me at speakingtothecia.com or you can find me at christinastation918.com. Okay, so this podcast, I'm going to cover crimes that I know Gene Roberts and her Manson occult committed this week, also last week. She is on, let me give you a preface here. She is on In My Brain and Mental Telepathy. Remember I told you how she said she was at the airport? Okay. Her and a bunch of people are on. Very snotty. Very commanding. Very dismissive. Very evil. Okay? And they have their group of nasty pets, like they use people as pets. I don't care about their situation. They're just like Gene. They're all the same kind of person. And then she orders them to go out and commit crime and do shit, which is following me and stalking me. And then in AI, in my brain, I can barely understand in my brain, like, I told you it's like really cloudy in my brain, and she changes and warps people's voices. So, like, sometimes it comes through and I can like hear like my own family talking, but my family is on, like they've got some sort of special access to talk to me and mental telepathy. But Gene has got all her nasty people out and about trying to act like they're like, such as my children. And she wants it to be all about her nasty little freak show buddies, her little nasty friends, who I can't stand. You know, I turned Gene and that group in. I turned in Gene Roberts and her Manson occult 5 years ago. And then the day before she shot Trump, I turned Gene and that ring in. Gene Roberts, her Manson occult, and also the KKK. They're funded by the KKK. They're all the same people. So it's just nonstop them committing crimes and then them trying to racket it and acting like they're going to just continue to get away with stalking me, stalking my family, committing terrorism, racketing the terrorism, posing as cops and intelligence everywhere. So that's what's going on. The same business as usual. It's just that right now, all the super snots are on trying to show out. They want to racket and just that's what they're trying to do. And they committed these crimes. So, okay, so the first one is Tracy Fire, NorCal. A massive fire in Tracy on June 11th destroyed a 1 million square foot medical supply distribution center. It sent large plumes of thick toxic smoke into the air for several days and littered neighborhoods with debris. As many as 120 fire crews battled the fire at Medline Industries in the 5700 block of Promontory Parkway when it was most active. So I know you already know the June the 11th, Tracy. I know you already know Tracy is a friend of mine who lives in Dallas. She's getting ready to move. I just talked to her. How are you doing? How's it going? Catching up with her. And then this happens. Gene Roberts starts a fire. And Gene Roberts pretends that she's got a bunch of people doing that, pretending to be Tracy's best friend. They don't even know Tracy. And they're all pretending to be her best friend. They're like, oh, no. But when I was in Dallas, I told Tracy all about my decoding these ciphers. I told her all about everything. Like, when I was in Slidell, I started decoding these ciphers, and I was trying to figure out who did it. And I told her I was in the middle of decoding. I even decoded one of Tracy's childhood addresses. And I gave it to her, and it freaked her out. She wasn't prepared for it. It freaked her out. And I was like, we're being stalked. Look at your address. It's totally decoded out. When I decoded out her address, I was like, did you have gravel in your yard when you were little? Because this is what this decodes out to. And she did have gravel in her yard when she was little. So anyway, she wasn't prepared for it. She took it. I don't know what she did with it. It seems like she told me that she threw it out. She didn't want to keep it because it was giving her heebie-jeebies. But she might have just told me that and really kept it. So I don't like really what she did with it. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I decoded it for her to let her know that she's being stalked. And now present day, I'm sure the stalking is times 100. Because Jean Roberts runs around. She acts like she's me, Christina Marie Stacia. She acts like she's the mother to my children, Anthony Michael Waterama. She just steps in and she takes over everything. Screw Jesse and Francesca. Who are they? And she has people stalking the ever-living shit out of me and my children. So it's all of my family, all of my friends. So it would be all of my family's friends also, as you guys know. So anyway, she also used in starting this fire Promontory Parkway. So Promontory, so she's using two different things here. She's using a mix between, and so she can clip and stitch and act like she's me and go tell lies everywhere and run a racket. She's using a mix between Promenade Mall here in Tulsa, and she's also using Pomeroy Elementary, where I went to 6th grade at in Chandler, Arizona. So that's what she's doing there. She committed that fire. United States drive-by shooters fire into crowd, injuring at least 12 people in Princeton Park. Okay, so I know that you already know that Jean Roberts committed this crime. She's using Butcher Holler is what she's using. I know you already know this because of, I want you to know she's following my podcast and she's committing crimes based on my podcast. But it's easy to catch the criminal now because she can only do two things. Steal from me, clip and stitch and cut everything up and pretend to be me. And try to get away with it acting like a cop when she's the criminal. So her even going near my podcast, she outs herself. So it's easy to catch every single one of these criminals. Everybody who's not a criminal and goes to my podcast goes, oh my God, what can we do to help? Well, maybe you might start going to law enforcement. Maybe you might start going to city council. Maybe you might start talking to Washington. Maybe you might say that the Charles Manson Ku Klux Klan has descended on Tulsa and decided to take over and blame everybody else and wreak havoc everywhere. And is running a con covering Jean Roberts' butt, tricking people into covering Jean Roberts, instead of Jean Roberts being arrested, is where you can start. So, anyway, if you can't do that, like I said, everybody makes their best decision what they can do. Non-criminals, of course, they make their best decision of what they can do. Sorry, Jean tries to control my speech to get me to go ramble on and on and on, because then she likes to clip and stitch, and then she likes to go with her clip and cut part of my podcast, and then talk down and condescend, and then and all that. That's what she's pulling there. So, okay, so United States, 1 dead, 4 wounded in Kansas City area spree shooting. The shootings happened within about 30 minutes Tuesday evening along a roughly 5-mile stretch that began near downtown Kansas City. Victims were found near I-670 and Wyoming Street, I-70 and Paseo Boulevard, I-70 and Prospect Avenue, and Truman Road and Hardesty Avenue. So you know that Gene Roberts committed this crime with the people that were on today, that have been her traveling, they are her traveling sickos, are the ones that follow me everywhere. I can tell that was this specific group of people. They're as sick as Gene, and they do everything Gene says. There's Gene in them, which means Gene is going to try to racket it. So the 670, they're grossing me out right now. They're on my brain. I cannot stand them. The 670, the I-70, the Prospect Avenue, they're making a reference to Champaign, Illinois. And then Truman Road, I know you know, they're making a reference to Truman Show. And Hardesty Avenue, they're making a reference to Hartford Elementary, where I also went to 6th grade. And they're making a reference to the Hardy Boys, one of my mom's favorite series of books when my mom was little. These nasty people and Gene Roberts, Charles Manson, have stalked me and my family all of our lives. I'm sick of them. They need to be arrested, all of them. Pakistan, 7 killed, 5 injured in twin blasts in KP's Bannu. Okay, so what she is using here, I read this, I read this entire commentary on, I don't want to use the word commentary. I'm sorry. Gene Roberts controls my speech, as I just explained. The prayers from Pakistan for the victims, and it's precious. And I am like, I'm sorry. I want to say that I'm sorry. I know you know that I am trying to make reports against Gene Roberts. Gene Roberts keeps stalking me. She keeps trafficking me. She acts like I'm for sale and this is how she makes money. And she'll sell any lie possible. She's even forcing me to say that in this podcast when we all know that's what she's been doing. I don't know. And then, she's controlling my speech. She tried to make me go, I don't know how she's doing it. BS, you're using AI. Anyway, so again, more 3rd grade level conversation. I am again sorry, Pakistan. This is the kind of horrible people that are controlling AI in Tulsa. The good news is, I know people around the world are rounding up this ring of terrorists. So I know it won't be long until all of them, from the ones that think they're high and mighty cop FBI, posing as cop FBI, all the ones that they got running around, like all of them. Like, I can't wait till Gene Roberts and all of them are arrested. I can't wait to be... Okay, anyway, she's getting me to ramble. So, okay, so... All I can do is just continue to make reports. Making reports, that means the criminals are always going to follow me. That means you always know who the criminals are. And I know that my voice is continually heard in Washington, D.C. because I am being stalked, and so are my boys. My children. I have 2 grown sons, and I know you guys know that. And it's probably angering for them as heck. Because I have grown sons. My mom's got to get on a podcast and say that we're being stalked. And they're being amazingly mellow and amazingly cool and calm. And I'm glad that they are not angry or freaking out. But that is the situation. So I need to keep the connection going with Washington because I need you to act as soon as humanly possible. I need Gene Roberts and her Manson Nicole arrested. Also the KKK. I will continue making reports against her. She is the one committing these crimes. So anyway, so in this crime, Pakistan, 7 killed, 5 injured in twin blasts in KP's Bannu. Okay, so she's using KP as in, she's making a reference to the Marines. She's using KP duty, like military kitchen duty is what she's using. And she's trying to racket it is what she's doing. Because in my brain, she said, in my brain, she was talking to her people and she goes, cleanup is what we're going to do. We're going to just take everything from Christina. We're going to wipe it all. We're just going to pretend that Christina's dead. And we're going to just clean it all up and we're going to get away with these crimes. Okay, Pakistan? That's exactly what Jean Roberts and her people are doing on In My Brain. Pakistan, you guys have direct access to my brain. You can hear in my brain. I love you guys out there. You keep telling me they know that Jean is guilty. They know that Jean keeps trying to steal my podcast. They know that Jean keeps trying to claim that she's me. I know you guys hear me, Pakistan, so I'm just making you aware of what Jean Roberts and her Manson occult is up to. Thailand, 6 policemen injured following explosion in southern Thailand. So Jean is using, she's using Providence here. Okay, so I was just talking about the Statue of Liberty. So she's making a Providence, Rhode Island reference. And she's making a reference to the Statue of Liberty. And you're going to see on my podcast, speaking to the CIA, this podcast that I'm talking on right now. Okay, and see all of my decode. So she hasn't used Providence in a while. She's using it again here, and she also used Yale. Okay, so Pakistan, cop murdered, 3 injured in terror attack on police post in lower DIR. Jean is using Ishmael. Okay, so you're going to want to see all my decode on Ishmael. Okay, so remember I told you she is stalking cartel family lines, and then it's mixed with her stalking Bomey family. The Bomies are a family that I know. They're a cop family in New Orleans, Louisiana, USA. Okay, so, and I know you guys know that all already following my podcast. Remember me going through all the decode, explaining how she combined the two and she's stalking them for 60 years, and she's also stalking cartel family lines for 60 years. Okay, so that's what she's doing using Ishmael again here, and then you're going to see all code, see all my podcast, see all code. Also, United States, stop. United States oil spill into Johnson Bayou. She's like trying to control my speech, and she's pulling my eyes around and doing all kinds of, because she's trying to get you to say certain phrases so she can clip and stitch, cutting and splicing what you say and running around telling lies, trying to rack it. So this is what you do. Just continue with your podcast, Christina, because we have your podcast that's censored. Ignore Jean Roberts. She won't be getting away with anything. United States oil spill into Johnson Bayou, southwest Louisiana. Okay, so it says in here the U.S., I know you already know Johnson Bayou. The USCG and OSRO are on site conducting cleanup. Okay, so cleanup, okay, what she just said in my brain. So that tells you that she also did this oil spill. Now, when I was reading this and I was decoding it, she posed herself, get this is what she did. She posed herself as the U.S. Coast Guard, Jean Jernigan Roberts, and she posed herself as quote-unquote mother, not my actual mom. She pretends that she's my mom. And then she did OSRO. She posted that. So Coast Guard, so she's saying OSRO. She's saying the Marines. And then she's talking about my dad. You know, she's got her dad thing. You guys already know that. My next podcast, you'll be able to get some relief at the anger at Jean Jernigan Roberts. So, anyway, you'll be able to have a good laugh at her expense. She's disgusting. She's evil. She needs to be arrested. So she's playing mommy and daddy here, which I bet you that probably. So she is mommy and daddy. So M and D. So she's using MUD and she's using doldrum. Okay. So, and then she's using OSRO and she's referring to oleo. Okay. So oleo is another word for butter. Okay, so she's making a reference to me as a child in grade school when we lived at the First Street when I was in first grade, and I burnt the bread in the toaster. So she's using that as her theme in committing this crime and this oil spill. And as you know, she plans to racket it. And as you know, she commits all these crimes pretending to be me. In two different directions. She pretends to be me committing the crime, and she pretends to be me as some sort of cop or agent or something. Okay, next crime. United Kingdom. 11 Welsh beaches hit by sewage spills in 48-hour period. So she's making a reference here to my old job at Fiserv in Dallas, Texas, which was off of Valley View Lane. The street right before it was Welsh, and so she's using VW, so she's making a Charles Manson reference. So Fiserv's logo is orange, so she's using that. And then also their home offices is in Alpharetta, Georgia. Okay, so she's spinning the word Alpharetta, Georgia. She's calling herself Beretta, is what she's calling herself. Jean Roberts of Milton, Florida. So you can tell she committed this crime. Okay, so also note the initials Welsh Beaches, WB. What did I tell you about her and Warner Brothers? Okay, so all right. Nope. She's trying to argue with me in my brain. So anyway, Vietnam, 2 killed in explosion at scrap collection facility in South Vietnam. So she is referring to me as a child with the sewing scraps with the most recent podcast, which you guys have on my podcast. So she's using that as a theme. So Jean Jernigan Roberts committed this crime in Vietnam also. Dominican Republic, 1 killed in large fire at luxury resort in Dominican Republic. Okay, Dominican Republic, and then note she's using the initials of Dominican Republic. She's Charles Mansoning is what she's doing, and she's doing it right now in my brain. Remember how I decoded doctor's orders and Jean gives orders? And then she goes and everybody does, it's like a symphony with her Manson occult. Everybody goes and does a different thing and nobody knows what the other hand is doing. And nobody even knows everything except her and her inner Manson occult. Okay, so she's using that here. Okay, so also this was in, I'm not going to pronounce this right, so let me spell it. Bayahibe. So what she encoded here was Banana Tribe. Okay, so remember when I told you Jean Roberts in my brain when I lived in Slidell and I was living in my apartment after I moved out of my dad's house? In my brain, Jean Roberts went on in my brain and was talking to one of her people and she called herself Banana Cake. And remember how mad African Americans were that Jean Roberts called herself Banana Cake? She thinks she's like a piece of for sale cake to African Americans is literally what she thinks of, and she's making a racial slur. And then she's like, I don't care. As she's told me, she's Ku Klux Klan, she's told me many times that black people will do everything that she says. She's in control, and she has warned me. Since I've lived at research, she has strongly warned me in my brain, you will see it my way, Christina. You will see it my way. And again, she tells me she owns me and everything else. And she tells me that she owns Africa. She didn't say she owns Africa. I'm sorry, she's controlling my speech. She said she bought part of Africa. I don't know where she said she bought. And she also said that she now owns all African Americans, is what she says. Jean Jernigan Roberts of Milton, Florida. She believes in ownership of people. And she will give you any nasty lie possible to try to shove down your throat to make you just be okay with Jean Roberts running around icing the hell out of people, using robotic technology to control people's lives. A white supremacist, a devil worshiper, someone who did the World Trade Center attack and Oklahoma City bombing, a terrorist, a white supremacist, Satanist terrorist. But anyway, she has warned me that she always gets her way. And I've had, like I've told you in previous podcasts, I have people that know her very well that have also told me she's going to get her way. She knows people that will help her get her way. And I'm like, no. There's not even no. You're going to go to jail, Jean Roberts. So anyway, so that's what she's referring to there. So she's trying to be cute. She wants to cute everything. Oh, everybody just go along with it. Let me just cute everything, and everybody just go along with it. People are so burnt out on Jean Roberts. People are mad. They are burnt out. They don't want to be cuted. They don't want to be pandered to. If they don't want any of that. They want Jean Roberts arrested. So anyway, she's also making a reference to Banana Republic. Okay, so she's been wanting to make a reference to Banana Republic. And in fact, in my brain, she tried to goad me into mentioning Banana Republic, which is a clothing brand. And I was like, in my brain, I'm not paying attention to her. And I'm like, I don't need to mention Banana Republic. There is no need. There's nothing. There's besides the BR, decoding all the BR. Like there's no added value. This is not any new information. It's just another clothing designer that you stalked. So she wanted Banana Republic in there. So she's making a reference to Banana Republic. So Banana Republic, so let me tell you about Banana Republic. So Rachel, she's making a reference to Rachel Maddow. Okay. Rachel Maddow is on MSNBC. She's a journalist. Okay. She looks exactly the splitting image. Remember I told you about Mika Cloyd in 6th grade? And I swear to God, she is on, that's also MSNBC. I swear it's her. That's MSNBC, Joe in the Morning. I swear to God, that's Mika Cloyd. And like years ago, I got to talk to them when I lived in Dallas, and then also when I lived in Oklahoma City, and they were kind of keeping me light on my feet. I was under a bunch of snake terrorism, and they were joking around with me, and I was joking around with them, and I'm like, are you Mika? And she's like, I'm not Mika. And I'm like, you, I swear to God, you are Mika Cloyd. She's like, I'm not Mika Cloyd. I'm like, you look just like Mika Cloyd, I swear to God. So anyway, then it became a thing in my brain, a mental telepathy. If they would come on, or if people were on that were in journalism, I would say, tell Mika hello for me. And so anyway, they would say, we'll tell them hello for you, Christina. So Miss Christina Stacia, that's what people say. They call me Miss Christina Stacia, or Christina Authentic, saying, because Jean Roberts and her Manson occult keeps trying to steal my identity. So anyway, I'm sorry. I mean, they're trying to control my speech right now, because they don't want you. Okay, I'm going back to this. Stop controlling my speech. So anyway, So Rachel Maddow looks exactly like someone I used to know when I was in a group home, and she was one of the counselors. And the counselor's name was Rachel. Was that what her name was? I swear to God, that's what her name was, Rachel. I can't remember. That was her name, Rachel. And she always wore Banana Republic. Banana Republic was huge back then, and she always wore Banana Republic every day. Banana Republic. I mean, that was her thing. Banana Republic, Banana Republic, Banana Republic, Banana Republic. So anyway, when I see Rachel Maddow on TV, I always think of Rachel, and I always think of Banana Republic. Like, I fully expect Rachel Maddow to be on TV with the Banana Republic shirt on. So anyway, Rachel Maddow knows this. I've communicated in mental telepathy with Rachel Maddow. So, and Rachel Maddow said to me in mental telepathy, she said, look what else Jean did. And she pointed out mad cow disease. And I said, I know, I turned her in for mad cow disease. She also started the Asian bird flu. She also started the swine flu. I've turned her in for it, and I've got connections to the World Health Organization. I call it who diseases, for lack of a better term, because who's everybody going to automatically blame? They're going to automatically blame who? So who's on, and they find out who did what. And no, Jean won't be getting away with any of that. She did that with the Asian bird flu. And then, the Asian bird flu too is COVID. And she did COVID too. So she tried to blame China for COVID. And I'm like, China did not do that. I decoded all of this. China did not do any of this. You did it, Gene Roberts. You and your Manson occult. So anyway, okay, so next, France, a founder of Assassin's Creed maker Ubisoft, I don't know how you say Ubisoft, killed in plane crash in Western France. Okay, so Assassin's Creed. Okay, people are around me in my brain and mental telepathy that know Assassin's Creed, and they're sick. They're feeling sick to their stomach, upset. Anyway, I had bought Assassin's Creed for my last husband. I bought him a couple of the Assassin's Creeds, and I bought him a sound bar. And we got into this big fight over the sound bar. When we broke up, I took the sound bar, and he was mad. He's like, that's my sound bar. You gave that to me. And I'm like, no, I'm taking it. We were fighting. I'm like, no, I'm taking it. It's mine. He's like, that's my sound bar. Give it back. And I'm like, no, I'm taking it. So we got in this big fight over the sound bar. So anyway, I've got an equalizer app on my phone to amplify the music. So Jean committed this crime because she's pissed that I have an equalizer on my phone to amplify the music on my phone. So she's using the sound bar, and she's also making a reference to the television show Equalizer. And again, she's acting like she's Mrs. Boss Hogg, and I love this. I can't wait. But the Joint Chiefs of Staff have got to be like, oh my God, they are like that. Like, stop controlling my. Hang on. Do not control Christina's speech, any of you. You're all gone. Anyway, remember what she did using Energizer batteries? Remember how she set up the whole Energizer campaign? And then she routed herself to working in the Department of Energy? And the Joint Chiefs of Staff are like, oh my God. And then I would give the Joint Chiefs, this is when I worked at Research. Well, I'd give the Joint Chiefs a hard time when I lived in Dallas, when they could be on, but I would cut on and off. I didn't have everything up, and they didn't know exactly what was going on. They knew something really bad was going on, but they didn't know what. And you're going to have to go through all of my podcasts But I finally got Gene turned in. And then when I worked at Reese's, I gave him a hard time over the freaking Energizer Bunny. I'm like, oh my God, you need to arrest Gene. You really need to arrest her. Anyway, so you can tell that Gene Roberts committed this crime. So that is all for this podcast.